Hello and welcome. Welcome to Everything is Energy and welcome to the forecast for the Gemini new moon, which is exact on June 14th, 2026 at 7:54 p.m. Pacific time. The new moon sits at 24 degrees of Gemini with both the sun and the moon being conjunct. Gemini is the sign of the twins. It's mutable masculine air ruled by Mercury. And this moon is a little bit of a different, gives us a little bit of a different energy of Gemini, I would offer, um, because it's arriving during an extraordinary period of transformation and transition. We've had nearly every outer planet change signs recently. Especially the outermost planets have changed signs. And Uranus most recently moved into Gemini, and the Uranus Sedna conjunction is still very active. I mentioned before that Saturn and Neptune have begun a new cycle in Aries, and Pluto has recently entered into Aquarius. And all of these are larger evolutionary currents that are still very much woven into this chart. So this new moon feels very much like a messenger, as if it's a bridge between worlds. And not only is this new moon acting as a sort of bridge between worlds, but it's really a time, a moment where new ideas and new perceptions and new possibilities begin arriving from a future that is already taking shape. So let's start off with the sun and the moon. They're at 24 degrees in Gemini. And it's worth noting or remembering that Gemini governs communication and learning and language and perception. And being the sign of the twins, it brings a sense of curiosity with it. Gemini, as I like to think of, doesn't just if Gemini's at a party, it doesn't just want to talk to the same old group of clique of friends that is easy to talk to. Gemini wants to talk to everybody in the room. It wants to make connections. And, you know, on a higher level, Gemini reminds us that reality is shaped not only simply by what happens, but really by how we interpret what happens. Gemini is the storyteller. It's the translator. And in many ways, ruled by Mercury, it's the messenger. Yet this new moon in this chart is not operating solely through Gemini. Out the gates, we have the sun and the moon tightly conjunct Capella. And Capella is one of the brightest stars in the sky. Its name translates to little goat. And in mythology, it is associated with Amalthea. I hope I'm saying that right. Amalthea is the goat who nourished the infant Zeus. And so Capella carries themes of nourishment and protection and guidance, and really wisdom gained through lived experience. And historically, Capella has often been associated with intelligence and curiosity and scholarship and inventive thinking. So when this new moon aligns with Capella, there is very likely a sense that new information carries a deeper purpose. This is not simply information for information's sake. This is information that nourishes, information that guides, and information that helps us prepare for what is coming next. And so next I want to turn to what may be one of the more or most dynamic features of this chart, and that is that Pluto is in opposition primarily to Jupiter, but with a few other celestial bodies, and I'll get to those in a second. But Pluto is opposing Jupiter. Jupiter's in the late degrees of Cancer. And while Jupiter represents expansion, and opportunity and growth and meaning. You know, Jupiter really invites us to widen our perspective. And Jupiter is exactly conjunct to Procyon. Procyon is one of the ancient royal and navigational stars. The name Procyon means before the dog, and that is because historically Procyon rises just before Sirius, Sirius being the dog star. And Procyon's themes are rapid advancement, opportunity, bold action, and swift success. But it's worth noting that there's also a caution associated with Procyon. It often grants success quickly, but the challenge becomes in sustaining it. And so Procyon really invites and begs the question, can we handle what arrives? Can we really steward the opportunity that we receive? So these guys are in opposition to Aquarius. And, Pluto's the planet of transformation. Pluto's the planet of death and rebirth, collective evolution. Pluto reminds us that power is ultimately our power, but it exposes power if it's being misused, especially. And in Aquarius, Pluto is transforming our communities. Pluto is transforming our technology and our networks and our collective systems. And in Aquarius, Pluto is building circular communities and structures that transform the future itself. So this opposition between Pluto and Jupiter and Procyon really invites, us to contemplate how are we balancing personal growth with collective transformation? Can we keep those both on our radar? And how do we navigate potential opportunities that arrive quickly without being consumed by them? So, really, this is an invitation to remain aligned with our deeper values while society itself is evolving and changing, which is, I think, honestly perfect for these times. And, I mentioned that Jupiter's not alone in this opposition. Jupiter's also loosely conjunct Venus and Vertex, who are sitting at 1 degree of Leo in the next sign. And this is pretty extraordinarily interesting because Venus governs, on the one hand, beauty and love and attraction, but it's also values and justice and harmony and equanimity. And vertex is often called a point of fate or destiny. Vertex is not a planet, it's a mathematical point in a chart. And many astrologers associate it with, meaningful opportunities, synchronistic events, moments that feel destined, or even just flat on its face, significant encounters. So when Venus joins vertex, relationships, justice systems, things that we value, our values can become catalysts. Also, creative opportunities can become catalysts. The heart may become the doorway. And I would often even say, not even may become the doorway, but likely is always a doorway. And it's just we're now having a realization that the heart is the doorway through which our destiny arrives. So, and again, this can manifest through those kind of synchronistic uh, experiences, unexpected meetings, creative inspiration, new relational pathways. But Pluto is also opposing these two, Venus and Vertex, in this loose but very operational conjunction between Jupiter and Venus and their accompanying minor aspects. And Pluto intensifies everything. So this opposition suggests that our relationships are changing, our values are changing, our justice systems are evolving. And really it reminds us that the future might likely arise through our remembering our interconnectedness, through people, through relationships. And it also very likely arrives through our heart. And so I also want to remind us that there's still there's the minor triangle that I've spoken of before, and I'm going to keep talking about it until we don't talk about it anymore because it's one of the major evolutionary signatures of our era. And this minor triangle includes Pluto in Aquarius, Neptune in Aries, and Uranus in Gemini. And if you remember, I just said at the top of this podcast, all those guys recently changed signs. So not only are we dipping our toe into this new era and starting to begin to wait around and feel for what's happening, but we have everything that changed signs in this harmonious flow. Pluto brings transformation. Neptune brings spiritual imagination and vision and dreams, and Uranus brings awakening and innovation and revolution. And so, together these planets create a conversation between transformation and vision and awakening. And this is why I often describe this configuration as the backbone of the larger changes that we are living through. And we can take a deep breath and remember that the old world is simply not ending. A new world is very actively emerging. And as we're talking about Uranus, Uranus still remains very tightly conjunct to Sedna, and this still absolutely deserves our attention. And I'll be pretty quick about this because I have a whole other podcast on this. But Sedna is the Inuit sea goddess, and her story is one of betrayal and descent and eventual massive empowerment and abundance and right relationship. She falls into the depths of the ocean and she becomes the ruler of an entirely new realm. And she becomes the goddess that births all the sea creatures that live beneath the surface of the ocean. And for the Inuit people, that is everything that is their food, it's their sustenance, it's as if, in the Amazon, she's the goddess of the rainforest. But, when you're talking about Arctic places, the sea is absolutely the source of abundance. But Sedna isn't just that. In her story, she represents deep unconscious material and she represents ancestral memory. But she also represents surrender and profound transformation. And the Uranus Sedna conjunction suggests and invites deep awakening, as well as the surfacing of collective truths and the emergence of something that's been hidden beneath the surface for a very long time. This conjunction has already been exact, but it's fully active and operational for a few months' time. And now we don't just have the minor triangle that I've mentioned previously. We have a second minor triangle in this chart for this new moon. And this is especially interesting because it brings Jupiter, Procyon, Venus, and Vertex into the story. So now the awakening, represented by Uranus and Sedna, and the vision and the seeing through the illusion and delusion towards what is really true, that's represented by Neptune. They're feeding directly into opportunity, into relationships, into creativity, and into destiny. And this gives this chart and this new moon a surprisingly hopeful feeling. And I'm going to qualify that statement by saying not easy, but hopeful. Because we're still in the middle. We're still at the beginning of this vast transformation, but we're still only just getting our bearings on what it means and where we're headed. But it really suggests that opportunities are emerging in the midst of this transformation, alongside this transformation. And, I mentioned the dog star earlier. Sirius is also active in this chart. Mercury is conjunct Sirius in the sign of Cancer, and this is beautiful. And let's remember that Sirius is the brightest star in our sky, that the ancient Egyptians revered Sirius, and that, they built the king's chamber, that the star shafts in the king's chamber, one of them was meant to be able to access and be able to see within the pyramid this star and receive the downloads from this star. Sirius is in a binary relationship with our sun. Sirius, the Dogon tribe of Africa knew it as the central sun to our sun. And the Egyptians associated Sirius, that was a little bit of a tangent there, sorry guys. The Egyptians associated Sirius with abundance and with fertility and with renewal and with divine timing. And that is because it marked the flooding of the Nile. And that was the beginning of the season. That was the beginning of the life cycle. That was the water that enabled them to grow their food. And also the water that flowed through the Nile absolutely was what inundated the aquifers beneath the pyramids and turned those pyramids into energy machines or mechanisms. So Sirius was pretty important to the Egyptians. And, Mercury is conjunct Sirius here in Cancer. And we know by now that Mercury governs communication, especially 3D mundane communication. And when Mercury joins Sirius, messages matter, words matter, but also ideas matter. Consciousness matters. Where we place our attention, the things that we choose to spend our time thinking about and reading and speaking about. And really, with Sirius, it's also reminding us that the right message at the right time can change everything, that this world is absolutely malleable, that we are never stuck, and that everything and anything is always possible, and that we are a very important aspect and agents of change. Now, we also have Mercury sextiling Mars and Taurus. And Mars and Taurus is really inviting grounded action. Mercury sextiling Mars was going to support this kind of practicality and maybe even very present and truthful communication. And there's also this sense of it's not just strategic thinking, but it's this maybe coming online of the nodes that may be out there are going to start to connect in our thinking and in our ability to perceive and communicate. But, Mars and Taurus is going to encourage this kind of steadiness. Taurus, the sign of the bull, is a slower moving energy, but Mars is absolutely going to be about steady implementation. And this, I really sense, this helps balance this highly mental Gemini emphasis with this lunation. Mercury is also square to Saturn and Vesta. And Saturn and Vesta are sitting together, conjunct, in the sign of Aries. Vesta was the keeper of the sacred flame. She represents devotion. She represents focus, as well as spiritual commitment. And in the world today, it's really about what we dedicate ourselves to, the truths and the things in our world that really matter to us, our values. Mercury squaring Saturn, this aspect is really asking, can we discipline our thoughts? Can we discipline our mental field, our mental experience? And we absolutely can. But, the question is, what is worthy of our attention? What is worthy of our energy? What is worthy of our consciousness? Not every idea deserves equal attention. And this square is really inviting us to pay attention to how we feel when we're thinking about something or looking at something or experiencing something and to really, you know, consciously choose to focus on those things that resonate and make our heart sing and speak to where we want to be in the future. So, this Gemini moon is ultimately about receiving new information and new possibilities while remaining connected to deeper wisdom. Capella's nourishing the mind. Sirius is illuminating the message. Procyon is absolutely bringing opportunity, and Venus and Vertex are bringing and operating meaningful encounters. Uranus and Sedna are still awakening us. Pluto is transforming us. And the two minor triangles that I mentioned, they remind us that all of these changes are connected to a much larger evolutionary process. This is not simply a new moon of communication on its face. This is a new moon of transmission. As if we can imagine we're sitting in the king's chamber and one of those star shafts is exactly focused on Sirius, and we're getting a transmission from the stars, an activation and an upgrade. And this new moon is really asking what future is trying to speak through us now. as well as are we willing to listen? All right, so before we get to the meditation for this lunation, I just want to give a brief shout out to some exciting things I'm doing in sync with this new moon and the next full moon. And this is just, if you're enjoying this podcast, I really want to invite you to join my email list. And that is because this June, I'm going to be offering a free two-part summer series called Herbs for the Season. And we're going to be exploring astrology and herbalism and really seasonal living together. And so our first gathering takes place on Saturday, June 13th at 12 noon Pacific. That is right before, as I mentioned, this new moon is exact. And it's to celebrate this Gemini new moon. And our second gathering is going to take place on Saturday, June 27th, excuse me. And we're going to be working with herbs, exploring herbal preparations and seasonal elixirs. So you can join my email list to receive the details, Zoom links, and recordings. And I'll put that link in the notes. Okay, so let's get to the meditation. I invite you to find a comfortable position, a space and a place where you won't be disturbed for the next little bit of time, and a place where you can really begin to settle. Begin to let your physical body relax. And first and foremost, let's focus on the breath and just start to allow and invite the breath to deepen naturally. So take a slow inhale in through your nose. Connect with that breath. Feel your body breathe. And as you exhale, release it. Take a nice long exhale through the mouth. Again, breathing in through the nose, taking your time. And letting your focus just simply rest with the experience of being here now and breathing. And exhale, same thing, release through your mouth and just be with the breath. A few more rounds of breath, just like that. Inhaling, long, slow inhale through the nose, and exhaling through the mouth. And as you're coming into your body and into this moment, I invite you to acknowledge that in this moment in time, there's nowhere you need to go. There's nothing you need to solve. There's nothing you need to figure out. Just simply arriving here and now. And just let your awareness fully come into your body. Feel the support beneath you if you're seated in a chair or lying on the earth. Feel the weight of your body, not only being held by the structure beneath you, but also being held by the soil and the earth that exists directly beneath you. And so just simply staying here with the natural rhythm of your breath, still, if you'd like, a slightly deeper inhalation and exhalation. And this new moon carries tremendous movement, new ideas, new possibilities, new directions. But before we move forward, we're really just beginning by coming here and now, coming present. And I invite you to send energetic roots, maybe from the soles of your feet, from the base of your spine, or from the back of your body, down through the whatever structure you're in, down into the soil directly beneath you. Connect to Gaia, to Mother Earth herself, and send those roots down and out. And as you do, feel yourself instantaneously held and met and seen and nourished. And as you're sending your roots down and out, also still staying as present as you can with this moment. And maybe you just simply absorb or speak these phrases. I am here. I am here. I am present. Receive that. I am present. And I am listening. You can imagine that your energetic sensors are tuned outward. I am listening. And now imagine yourself standing in an open meadow at twilight. The air is calm and the sky is vast. And as you're standing in this open meadow, you can see the horizon stretching out in every direction. And as you take in the vista and you take in the energy of this space, start to take in that this is Gemini. This is the place of curiosity and learning and communication, the gathering of information. But as you're standing at twilight in this meadow tonight, Gemini is not, this evening, is not asking you to search. It's asking you to listen. And now imagine a gentle breeze moving across the landscape. A messenger arriving, the breeze itself. And as you feel this gentle breeze, feel how there is no urgency, there is no pressure, but there is absolutely possibility. And as you're sort of caressed and surrounded by this soft evening breeze, you can sense that there's a message carried on the wind. And as you take your next breath in through your nose, ask yourself, what is trying to reach me now? And exhale, take your time. Just allow the answer to arise naturally. What is trying to reach me now? Without forcing, without analyzing, just simply listening. And now you're still standing in this meadow. Lift your gaze upward into the night sky and see a bright star shining above you. This is Capella, a star associated with guidance, nourishment, and wisdom. And as we know, for thousands of years, people have looked to the stars for direction. And with this lunation, Capella reminds us that guidance is absolutely available. So as you connect to this star, connect to this understanding that you do not need to know everything, that you do not need to see the entire path, that you only need to see the next step. And imagine the light, the energy, the information from that star descending toward you from the night sky, surrounding you, filling your field, filling your mind, your heart, your body. And you can receive or repeat, I trust the guidance that is arriving. I trust the guidance that is arriving. I trust the wisdom unfolding within me. I trust the wisdom unfolding within me. And now imagine as you're looking up at the night sky, another star, bright star, catches your attention, as if it sort of twinkles to get your awareness and your attention. And that star is Sirius. And just as Capella was beaming down its wisdom and its energy and its information. You can lift your third eye and lift your heart to connect with Sirius, the central sun to our sun. Sirius reminds us of our ancient self, of the star stuff that is part of our origins. And Sirius reminds us of the part of us that knows, the part of us that remembers. And imagine as that star is twinkling, it's sending a spark of light and energy and consciousness and information down into your third eye and down into your heart as an activation, an awakening, a remembering. A remembering that also feels like a new awareness. And receive this spark of light into your heart, into your third eye. And imagine that this spark of light is activating these aspects of you, but it's doing so slowly and naturally and without force. Sirius is bringing insight and offering truth and remembrance. And as you connect with this ancient star, you somehow deeply know that you do not need to create your awakening. You only need to allow it and be present in it. And as you're receiving this energy, this download from Sirius, maybe you repeat or receive these words: I trust what is emerging. I trust what is emerging. And also, I trust what I am becoming. Feel that. Feel its truth. I trust what I am becoming. And now, as you're still standing outside, the sky is close to being dark. In the distance, you see a pathway unfolding. And as you see this pathway, you don't see the entire journey. You only see the next several steps. And as you see this pathway and connect with it, you know that this is enough. The next few steps. Because this new moon is not asking you to have all the answers. It is asking each of us to open and to remain open with our hearts and our third eyes, to be curious, to be available. And it's just absolutely reminding us that there are opportunities approaching, connections and downloads and conversations approaching, ideas approaching. And some of these may arrive unexpectedly, serendipitously. They may feel fated. Or they may simply feel like a door quietly opening. And you can even take a moment right now to imagine yourself standing before that doorway right now. You do not need to walk through it today, only just to notice it. Notice what it feels like. Notice what it awakens within you, what it means to you to have a doorway of opportunity make itself known. And as you notice what it awakens within you, go ahead and take another breath in through your nose. And just connect with that knowing that there is a doorway opening. And as you exhale, release the breath. Release any tension. And see if you can really feel that you can trust the unfolding of the path. And now go ahead and bring your awareness to your heart. You can place one hand gently over your heart if that feels comfortable. Feel your breath moving in and out of your body. Feel your body breathing. Feel your heart beating. Also feel the space around you. And as you're tuning your sensors, connecting to this space that's around you, this Gemini new moon is reminding us that life is always speaking, that guidance is always arriving, and that the future isn't something we create alone. It's something we enter into a relationship with. And sometimes the most important thing we can do is listen. Go ahead and take one final deep breath in through your nose and a long, slow exhale through the mouth. And when you're ready, you can begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. You can connect to the room or the space and place around you. Feel the support beneath you. And when you are ready, just softly open your eyes. And I invite you to set the intention to carry this sense of openness with you. Carry this curiosity out into the world. Carry this trust out into your life. And this knowing that the next chapter is already beginning to unfold. And that you are exactly where you need to be to receive it. Thank you so much for joining me for this podcast, this meditation. I'm truly grateful for the global community, the hundreds of countries and the thousands of people who are together. We're weaving a web of light. We are co-creating the future. And as I mentioned, I'm offering uh, a free gathering this new moon and this full moon, integrating the wisdom of astrology with the wisdom of the plants and herbs, and hopefully really giving us some hands-on and seasonal things that we can do to integrate. So if you're not already on my email list, go ahead and check out the link in the show notes so that you can get the invite. All right, happy new moon, bright blessings, and so much love.